All right, we're going to get started in just a couple more minutes. Hopefully everybody has one of the handouts, and just give us a couple of more minutes and we'll get started. Good Yontif. And Shana Tova, Happy New Year to everybody. How is everybody holding up? Okay. Good. I know this is the time when the headaches sometimes kick in. Yep, and some of the pangs of hunger kick in. So the worst part, by the way, every year, this program started at Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple, and thankfully it's now part of our merged congregation. Every time we usually have guests, and oftentimes the guests are not Jewish, and I feel a little less than that I'm not able to provide you with some sustenance, some food and drink. So just know that we are a very welcoming congregation, and we just don't have beverages or anything. And if you really need something, let us know. We have water. It's hidden, but we have it. Friends, every year our social action lecture or program is a highlight of our Yom Kippur observance. This annual program is dedicated to the memory of devoted congregants. Milton Stern, a longtime member of this congregation, a president of Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple, a president of our brotherhood, and a life trustee of that board, and Ruth Stern, who as Milt's partner in life and in so many endeavors, was a driving force in creating this series. Together they shared many interests and passions, and through their passionate involvement with the sacred congregation, they actively pursued justice and strive to have our congregation open its hands to all people who are vulnerable. Few loved attending our social action program more than James Samuels, Jim, to all who knew him. He was engaged in our temple's social justice endeavors for years, and a very good friend of mine. Jim's legacy remains with us, and with the help of his good friends, including Nancy Glick, Randy Solomon, Cheryl Davis, and John Wise, we launched a temple fund in Jim's honor that enriches and sustains this annual program on Yom Kippur, and that is why it is called the Milton and Ruth Stern and James A. Samuels Social Action Program. Jim is survived by his sister, Arlene Samuels West, and of course, we'd like to always acknowledge Jim's longtime partner, Ophelia Bernstein, who was a loving presence at his side. Friends, social justice runs through the lifeblood of Congregation Mishkan Or. And as such, while a part of our day is devoted to prayer and fasting, the thrust of Yom Kippur requires us to address the social inequities of our time. Famously, it was the prophet Isaiah who proclaimed, "Is this the fast that I desire, for you to wear sackcloth and ashes and bend like a reed and fast on this day and yet do nothing the rest of the year? Is this the fast I desire?" So here we are today, friends. We're fasting. But it's not just about fasting. It's about acting, and it's about taking the lessons that we've learned from our prophets and everything that we're reflecting on today and putting into function and motion 364 days remaining. That's what this work is about. Congregation Mishkan Or does not do social action or interfaith work as a token exercise. We do this every day with our hearts and minds, thinking about the greater community and how we can reflect Jewish values into it. So on that note, it is my pleasure now to introduce this year's Milton and Ruth Stern and James A. Samuels Social Action guest, Reverend Luis Vizcarrondo, Jr. Reverend Luis, a son of another Reverend, right? As many affectionately call him, I hope it's okay to say Rev Luis, leads Refined Church in Brooklyn, Ohio, with his wife, Reverend Sarah Vizcarrondo. And so it's great to have you here, both of you here. And of course, they're here with their 4 children. And so we're so glad that you came. You came dressed so beautifully today. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. And it's so very special. I think Reverend Luis will introduce a special guest, Maria, as part of his talk, who is part of his community, but also someone who we've been connected to through some of the work that Rev Luis is doing on the ground, some very important work on the ground to help those who are in a really tough spot right now, given some practices of the current administration. So that will be something we'll talk about. Maria, bienvenidos. Welcome. It's great to have you and here with your kid. I think, did you bring 2 or 1? Okay, great. Okay, fantastic. And if we need translation, we have the Madrid family here, ready and willing to go. So we might do that as well at some point. Reverend Luis has been a key partner with the Interfaith Group Against Hate, or what we call IGA, an organization of which Mishkan Or is a part. In the greater Cleveland landscape, Reverend Luis is community-minded and an advocate for those in the Latino community who are seeking a pathway to citizenship. I want to say finally that there are index cards and pencils that you were given by Barbara Smith, and they're available to you should you wish to ask Rev Luis a question during a brief Q&A period following his remarks. So we'll find a time towards the end of the program to collect them. We may not be able to answer all of them, but we find it to be a more efficient way of asking questions and sort of putting them together, because sometimes people are asking the same questions. So in the middle of Rev Luis's talk and something hits you and you just want to write it down, you can do that then. Without further ado, Reverend Luis Vizcarrondo, Jr., thank you so much for being with us today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for opening your synagogue this afternoon on a day your community sets aside for honesty and repair, and a people who put courage daily, right, to make it easy for the rest of us to tell the truth. And before anything else, I want to honor who is here. Maria is with one of her children, and many of you have been holding their family in your hearts, and keep them there as you listen. You may notice I had spoken to Rabbi Caruso about my dress down, my button-down shirt, right? Some people may have seen it in Mexican tradition. Some others may have seen it in other Latin American countries. And it's a Latino cut with woven borders, right? Clay red, maize gold, river blue, new leaf green. And these colors come from indigenous looms, right, across the Americas. I wear it because my story is stitched from many threads. Indigenous, African, European, and many other ethnicities. And because I want my daughters to see their dad exactly as he is. I also wear it because your sanctuary and many of the rooms, the beautiful rooms, have different colors. And I know that your prayer shawls as well carry stripes that say, remember who you are. And your windows turn plain light into a blessing. Different cloth, same intention, memory that moves us. My life as a Latino minister is trivocational. and you're going to hear why. I pastor a congregation, I lead a small community center, and I do the jobs between the jobs: driver, interpreter, caseworker, fundraiser, janitor, counselor, and sometimes a person under a sink with a wrench. And I do this with no salary while we raise up leaders to take over both the center and the church. My wife has the ability to teach, and she has the license, and she's been teaching at Breakthrough Schools as a kindergarten teacher. We chose to live smaller so our neighbors can live a little safer. And I would be lying to you if I say I don't worry. I worry when she leaves for work. I worry when my kids go to school. I worry when my parishioners call me not knowing if they are okay. I worry when I get that call from one of our clients or Latino families we serve, or an attorney calling me to translate knowing that moment somebody has been taken. And I worry when I get those looks in a parking lot just for speaking Spanish. I worry for friends, family, and everyone around, especially because my wife, she's half Ecuadorian and half Puerto Rican. She carries the world of a colony and that of an immigrant mother leaving a civil war. Now let me introduce you to some Latino Clevelanders. And I've had the privilege to speak to some of these families, and out of respect for their safety and out of respect from their families, we will keep their names out of each of these stories. But the first one I share with you is a diabetic father of 4. He walked into a routine immigration check-in. His insulin was in his bag, and a lunch his daughter packed sat on the counter at home. He did not walk back out of that check-in. That is how uncertainty enters a home without sirens and silence. Another father with his friend left before sunrise to drive from Cleveland to Michigan for a shift that pays rent. He FaceTimed his wife on his way like he always does. He was taken before he reached the state line. The terror his wife felt as she saw through FaceTime watching her husband get attacked by a county sheriff in Michigan. No final I love yous, no see you soon, a husband taken and a wife left in despair. By afternoon, his phone went to voicemail, and by evening, his wife was trying to locate where he was. And another gentleman went to a local Home Depot, bought a tape measure and a small bag of screws, and was taken in the parking lot at a Home Depot here in Cleveland. The next morning, his family called my office with the receipt. She thought if she could prove he bought something for work, someone would give him back. That is what love looks like when it is desperate. It brings the receipt. And another father was told he was only taken by another county's local police department here in Ohio because he fit the description for the quotas needed to be locked up. And one of the last stories was that a father opened the door of his home in Cleveland thinking it was a welfare checkup and was taken from his home, a place we all consider safe. Until this day, his family has not heard a word from him. They have no idea whether he has been deported or not and whether he is alive or not. And finally, a family you may have heard of, and if not, let me introduce you to them. She is sitting amongst us, and it is Maria and her daughters and her husband, Alex Millan. After driving Maria to work, Alex headed home and was boxed in on West 41st in front of his daughters. Inside a private, for-profit prison is where he sits in Youngstown. He reads and leads a small Bible study circle, trying to still keep on to that hope, right? And at home, Maria keeps a folder nearby with all his documents and a phone always charged. And right now, we're waiting for, hopefully his release. And we're waiting for the call every family longs to hear. And Maria, we thank you for trusting us with your story. This does not live in one corner of the city. We hear about people being taken on their way to work or on their way back home, stopped far or near from home by other law enforcement departments, transferred before a family can find the right window or the right number to call. Fear rewrites daily lives. When I have to hear of a young man folding his identifying documents and placing it in the visor, just out of fear of whether or not he'll be stopped, having to prove whether he's a citizen, it's not an easy, feeling. A teenager counting unmarked cars, hoping that he doesn't get taken before a soccer game. These are conversations I've had as a minister with different groups and different people. Parents rehearsing a sentence in English before asking for help because help can turn into harm if the wrong ear is listening. I need to tell you the cost of this work. We have found bullets at my home. Someone has mailed me cookies to my office, iced with a slur that says Hispanics are predators. A woman in a red hat hit my car at a McDonald's while my children were inside. We have found even swastikas on the concrete of our old building before moving to our new building. Letters have arrived with white powder, and a neighbor called me a monkey and other slurs because he did not want my wife and I to buy the house next to his. I won't hand the microphone to hate, but I won't pretend it didn't happen. What I keep just as close are the faces of people who showed up, cleaning, power washing sidewalks, standing between my kids and the ugly, and helping our congregation and the community center. This city and some of its neighbors know how to show up, and I know this congregation has helped turn darkness into light. Now, the part that gives me breath and gives me hope is we started a clinic with nothing. Man, that's been an amazing feat, between IGA and some other groups, because amazing partners have said we needed to start anyway. And a group of organizations against hate have also helped expand to open the first Latino contextual food pantry we know of in the area, stocking masa harina, rice, beans, cans of chile, spices, and taste right from home. And along the way, we've launched ESL tutoring, ride groups to court, and more. And because of the clinic, the pantry, and these programs, we've been able to serve close to 300 individuals a month. It's a big blessing for a lot of families. And we did not do this alone. We did it because of amazing partners like Mishkan Or and many other congregations, including many beautiful individuals like Dr. Rochelle and Dr. Nathan and Donna and many others. And volunteers have turned those hallways into hope. And our work has a name and a home. It's called Exartizo. Exartizo means to equip and make whole, to mend a net so it can carry life again. We equip families with care, food that honors culture, language support, rides, and steady company so fear is not the only voice in the room, and that is what we stand for. Neighbors fully equipped to live with dignity. I'm not the only pastor holding my breath. A friend of mine, who is also a minister, serves another immigrant church in Cleveland. He is waiting for his visa renewal right now. He doesn't know when the answer will come. His wife waits with him, and their little one doesn't understand their fear, but understands the worry in the house. It is hard to dream when the mail decides whether you get to stay or you leave. And there is one more truth I need to name, especially here. When I say my people, I don't mean a people separate from you. I mean our people. We come from the same human ancestry, dust and breath, right, and story. Immigrant sometimes is used as a label often to divide, but under the label is family. My people are your people. Our roots are braided together farther back than any border. And so this afternoon cannot end as a feeling. It has to become muscle memory. And I ask for one action, simple enough to do and strong enough to change a life. Before this week ends, maybe place your phone number in someone's hand and say slowly, so they believe you, you will not walk alone. Then answer with the call when they call. Show up once and then again, and let your name be the proof that community is real. That one sentence turns a stranger into a neighbor. It turns fear into a plan, and it turns color on a shirt into color in the world. Clay red like the roads my grandfather walked, river blue like the tears and the dishwater after a long night at the center, maize gold like the food we share when a paycheck vanishes, green like the second chances that keep arriving. In this sanctuary and in this hall, I see echoes, stripes that help you remember, windows that teach light how to serve, a community that schedules unity and then shows up for it. And so may we be the neighbors who answer the late call. May we be the drivers who wait in the parking lot. May we be the steady faces at the clinic desk. And may we be the ones who keep the lights on. And may the children of our city learn from us that their names are safe to say out loud. That is all.
Please don't go too far here. We are, you can sit down if you want for a second. Yep. I don't want to make you stand. You've already been standing. And I think we'd like to welcome your, are these your parents?
Yeah, these are my parents.
Okay, so can you tell us their names?
Yes, that is Luis Vizcarrondo Sr., Dr. Reverend Luis Vizcarrondo Sr., and my wife,
Yep,
my
your
mother.
mom. Yep.
I just saw my wife's face.
I got you. It's okay.
My mother, Regina Vizcarrondo.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome, welcome. It's good to see you. All right, and I think we met Sarah, although you were out there waiting, making sure they came. Can you also tell us your children's names?
Yes, we have Luis Angel Vizcarrondo, Aaliyah Vizcarrondo, Leah Vizcarrondo, and Joy Marie Vizcarrondo.
Wow.
And then...
Is she the youngest?
Yes.
Yes.
She is.
You know, it's a little spunk.
Oh,
There's a little spunk there.
Lots of spunk.
Yes. My youngest also has a lot of spunk, for sure. Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad you all joined us. It's really special to have you with us today. We know how proud you are of your son and your husband and your dad. I know, Rev. Luis, you were talking about things that we could do. So maybe, for those of you, by the way, who have index cards, if you have them, can you hold them up? Maybe Barbara can, if you don't mind, Barb, if you could collect them. I think what might be nice, actually, is if you don't mind, Cynthia, to come on up. Many of you know Cynthia Tanzer. She's a member of our congregation. Many of you probably don't know that she has been involved in this work. And she's been involved with the church and collections. And I asked Cynthia if she would share just a few words about, maybe you could share a few words about what you've done so far, because what the congregation actually has done.
Yes.
And then what are some next steps? And I'll ask some questions.
So thank you, Rabbi Caruso, and thank you so much. So I had the opportunity to help with a food drive that Congregation Mishkan Or did in July for the Refined Church, and I had the opportunity to meet Reverend Luis and two of his kids, and I was amazed with the abundance of food that we had. I worked with Wendy Jacobson, and we did it in like 3 days, and we collected 2 full carloads of food, and we were very specific about what we needed because we wanted to make sure that we were culturally aware and sensitive and brought food that would be helpful for the families. So that was the start. And then I worked with the other congregations that are part of the Interfaith Group Against Hate. And now we have a group of 8 or 9 congregations that are doing food drives every 6 to 8 weeks to support the Refined Church. But as we talked about, word of mouth is strong. So even though your congregation isn't huge, he's really supporting the needs of the larger Latino community. So we will be doing another food drive at the end of December, or the middle of December, so that there's ample food for the holidays. And so pay attention to the newsletter and emails. But I also want to call your attention to the back of the flyer. There's also other ways you can get involved. So Reverend Luis spoke specifically about a family. If you would like to donate to support the needs of that family, we're accepting Walmart cards, and we can take them at the front office. Rabbi Caruso also has a discretionary fund, which he uses to support sort of urgent and immediate needs. If you'd like to donate to that, you can put a note on the bottom to support not necessarily a specific family, but sort of immigration issues and immigration issues that come up in terms of legal support or other things that we don't necessarily anticipate, and we need to respond really quickly. Unfortunately, as Reverend Luis said, this stuff isn't stuff that's planned. It happens in the middle of the night, it happens in the middle of the day, and we need to react and support in a timely manner. You can also write letters to members of Congress, and I actually drafted a letter that was not included in this as a template. And so if that's something that you're interested in doing, I can provide that to you, or you can get it from Rabbi Caruso. But it's nice to have a template or some sort of guide if you're going to do something like that, because it can feel daunting, but it's really not. But if that's something that you'd like to do, that would be super helpful. And then I think the other thing is to really stay informed. And so what we've done is provided you a list of really reliable, accurate resources so that you can become informed about how complex and how nuanced all of this is, and to make sure that you have the talking points if you want to have a conversation with someone about some of these issues. So thank you in advance for all of your support. I know that the December food drive that we do will be robust like our last one. And thank you for all you're doing. So.
Reverend Luis, by the way, if there are more questions, please hold them up. I've gotten some good questions. Some of them are the same. So so feel free. I have some questions on my own, but feel free to write things down. Reverend Luis, can you tell us a little bit more about how the need for food and the work that we're doing with these drives, how it connects with the issue of undocumented immigrants? Like, how does it connect? Why do they need these foods? Like, how does it play out? Is it that one partner then if a partner is jailed in some way or is detained? How do the families survive? That kind of thing. Yeah.
So when it comes down to a lot of these families, a lot of it has to do with fear, right? Fear from leaving their homes. Some of them are not, unfortunately, able to go to work. I've actually had employers let go of some other workers out of fear that the employer may actually face repercussions. And it's all because sometimes of misunderstanding and not understanding how the immigration law system, works, right? And so there are individuals, let it be through executive order or some other form of policy or changes at last minute that occur that don't help a lot of the immigrant situations, because some of them have gone from documented to undocumented. And then with just seeing unmarked vehicles, and also Border Patrol lately has been around in Cleveland. I've seen it firsthand myself. I've actually seen ICE in the unmarked Chevy Suburbans. They're not hard to miss because they're brand new Chevy Suburbans. You don't see those everywhere. They're nice, polished, and detailed. And just so you guys are aware, and the reason I know a lot about this is because my background was in Homeland Security. So I was the guy. You were employed? Yes, I was employed through DHS, and unfortunately, I was also one of the people, deporting individuals. And it wasn't easy, and so that's how I'm able to tell, the vehicles and the personnel and different techniques that are being used. But I've made it, my mission to change that, and help inform, teach, educate a lot of the families so they understand what to do, when to do it, and how to go about things. But yeah, fear is the biggest issue as to why a lot of individuals don't make it to the grocery store. And then some of these families that their husbands have been detained, which we've been seeing a lot more men than actual women and children being taken, that makes it a lot more difficult, right? Because now the women have to handle a lot more by themselves than if they were actually with their spouses at the home.
Thank you. Don't go too far, because my next question is around, you had mentioned, I had been aware that you're not employed by the church. I mean, this is right, this is more of a community thing that you do. How did you get into this? How did you become, and I want to get a little more specific. How did you become the go-to person for members of your community who didn't know what the next step was when someone in their family was detained? How did you become that guy?
So during COVID, I was invited actually by Telemundo to give a Know Your Rights segment on Telemundo. And then basically before COVID, when I spoke about making it my mission, I've made it my mission to help turn things around. Because when I met my mother-in-law, she met me when I was in DHS uniform. So you can only imagine Ecuadorian seeing a guy in Homeland Security uniform doesn't correlate correctly. And so, that's basically what I've done is not just working with families. I've gone to churches, have had the opportunity to actually speak to other ministers. I've gone to community centers. I haven't made it to where it's like I'm trying to be on the news, because there's a difference between people who understand the grassroots, right, and are actually there hands-on with those families all the time. And so a lot of it comes from word of mouth, right? You have the family that said, oh, well, the pastor helped me with this, so now they go on to the next family and they're like, oh, well, this is the guy. And then when they hear that you work for Homeland Security, that's when everything else adds on, right? This guy can protect me. I don't know too much about that, but I can do what I can to help out, right? So that's kind of how things have come along, is that the go-to is just, I've been very advocacy-based, going out there and advocating for my Latino community, because I don't see my community as, like I said, immigrants. I see them as my family, as an extension of our ancestry, and so.
I want to be particularly sensitive. Maria is here, and I'm really glad we specifically invited you here. And I know if we could do a little translation maybe, either for you or, we have other people here who could translate, but you're pretty good. I would say, could you ask Maria, how is she doing now? Alex, her husband, has been detained for how long now? You can come here, so we'll do it. 4 months. And how are the children managing? She has 3 children?
Tres en Venezuela. Yes.
Can you ask her how the children...
¿Cómo están manejando las niñas la situación? Very difficult.
Yes, yeah. And do they get to talk to him?
¿Ellos pueden hablar con él? De las niñas. Yeah.
Thank God. And because he's detained in Youngstown right now. He was detained without any criminal record.
Correct.
right? And he'd been in this country for about 3 years.
Correct.
And he had papers, working papers, that kind of thing.
Work permit, his actual driver's license, everything.
Well, I want to just say this, and then we'll be done with it, Maria. I want to say that this whole community, we are supporting you,
Esta comunidad te está apoyando, María.
and we are praying for Alex.
Estamos orando por Alex.
Maybe you could say a little bit about how does it happen where somebody comes into the country illegally, right? But how do they get papers then? Like, how does that work? I'm going to tell you, like, this is, right, just like Joe American doesn't understand how that works. If they cross over, how are they able to, because he had work papers, he's been here for a few years. How does it work? And then, like, how does he then get picked up if he has the papers?
So, is it okay if I invite Nathaniel? He's here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Nathaniel, if you could come up here. I'm going to go a little bit into this, but I also brought my friend, immigration attorney, Nathaniel Shaw with me.
Nathaniel's been working with Alex and trying to help him get a hearing. So yeah.
Yeah. So, from my perspective, before Nathaniel goes into his as an attorney, basically when a lot of immigrants surrender themselves either voluntarily or we capture them at the border, there's this whole concept, right? Undocumented versus documented, right? Typically, how we see documented immigrants are those who have applied for visa, have applied through some form of relief, right? Whether it be temporary protected status or, currently we knew about the CBP-1 app that existed until the new administration canceled the program. And now it's turned actually around, and the application now states that you can apply to leave the country. But typically, I do want to say this. So when an individual would either turn themselves, involuntarily at the border, I would say, even though many people see that as undocumented because they haven't applied necessarily for relief, they're still technically documented because we would release individuals on what is called a reconnaissance, right? Basically, we're supervising their stay here in the United States before letting them go. And they would have a notice to appear, which is an NTA. Those notices are for ICE check-ins. And then you also have another program called ISAP, which is an intense version of supervision. I have actually a few families from my congregation that have actually had social workers, and unfortunately, there is social workers through DHS, that go to these homes, and what they do is they ask the immigrant, how are they living, who they're living with. They take pictures of their room, of their car, of their fridge, of their basement, their whole house. They ask them where they're working, how many hours, and basically that is what the intense supervision part of ISAP is that these social workers are coming out and they're questioning the immigrant and their living situation. That being said, through that program as well, they have to carry around a phone or their own phone with an application that they have to actually present themselves, sometimes even randomly, and they take 16 to 20 pictures of the immigrant where they're at and their facial picture as well. And they have to see where that immigrant is. So that is a part of that. So I did want to clarify on that end, the undocumented, documented. Technically, they're still documented because they have something, but the undocumented part is because they haven't really applied for some form of relief, but go ahead.
So the social workers are kind of there to also gather intel.
Pretty much.
Yes, in some ways. Okay.
Yeah, because originally the social workers, when they were first introduced, they were originally to help actually immigrants with certain resources,
Sure.
but that is not the case
You
anymore.
feel like that's changed?
Oh, well, I mean, the social worker herself told me when
Okay.
I was present.
Got it.
I was present at one of those check-ins, so that's.
What might be helpful, Nathaniel, and I know like time is tight, but because you're representing Alex right now, can you? And Alex is from Venezuela, correct? So, Nathaniel, Alex has now been in prison for 3 months, 4 months. What are the chances of him being able to be released? And you could go a little bit closer to the mic if you want.
Yeah, sorry about that. Shalom, everyone.
We didn't tell him he was going to do this.
I just found out my father and the rabbi went to the same college. So my father's actually also a Christian reverend, but he studied the Hebrew at Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati. So he told me I had to wear this. But just to clarify a little bit, there's a long history of the Jewish people, and in the 1930s, America shut our doors to them. So in 1961, the UN had a convention on refugees where if you were in danger in your country based on political, religious belief, ethnicity, being Jewish, for example, you could come to America and apply for asylum. So the process that we have in America, which Jimmy Carter signed into law in 1980, Refugee Act, is if you show up at the border and you tell the officer that I'm afraid of going back to my country because they're going to persecute me for my religion, for my political belief. And I believe for Alex, he's actually on a hit list of their dictator there, that we give him what's called a credible fear interview. And if the officer believes that it's more likely than not that this guy's telling the truth, then we let him in. So the difference between Alex is he didn't crawl under the border, he didn't jump a fence. He applied on an app, he had an appointment, he met with an officer, he told them the story. He has the documents that shows that he is on an enemies list in Venezuela, and we let him in. During the Biden administration 3 years ago, and unfortunately, when presidencies change, policies change. Some police are stricter than others, right? Sometimes you can speed 5 miles, sometimes you can speed 10 miles, and sometimes we will let you in. We'll give you work permission, and only for the next presidency to snatch it away. So that's kind of what happened in his case. So in his case, too. Under Trump, they've made this rule where everybody that came, even if they came through the app, even if they had an interview, if they've only been what's called paroled in and not fully admitted, then they are keeping them in detention, which is it's unfortunate. So his chances of getting out probably rest on what's called the habeas corpus to file to say that he's been unjustly detained, and to go back to families need they do need food, but the minimum bond that it will be set is $1,500, which for somebody that just lost their breadwinner, I believe she had to sell their car. This is not something that the average person whose spouse has been detained can do. So we appreciate all the support you give, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through financially, whether it's through writing Congress and advocating that just like the Jewish people that were fleeing in the 1930s, today there's other people fleeing other dangers that. We should give protection if they have a real story, if they have a real fear of going back.
Thank you, Nathaniel. All right, that's pretty good for calling you up impromptu, so we appreciate that. We really do. And so I guess with Alex, we really worked to hire Nathaniel to give Alex a chance. We felt like the previous representation that he has wasn't giving him the full chance that he needed. So we're really hoping that he'll be able to stay, especially because there's no record. And I want to just say, for those of you, again, as Cynthia mentioned, all the ways that you can contribute on the back of this form. The first donations that we'll get, whether they're Walmart cards or checks, will go to the Mian family to help them and just kind of help them keep going right now, because their breadwinner is detained right now. Here's a question for you, and from our cards. Rev Luis, this is a community. We've been around since the mid-1800s, and part of what we do in our community is work with partners. Okay, so, and we have a Jewish Community Federation that hopes to also partner with different groups in town, create change, like organizations. Jews are really good with organization, okay? Maybe we have too many organizations, okay? But but we do it because we're trying to kind of create a system, right, of help. In the Latino community, is there an analog to that? Are there ways in the Latino community where, like, I know I can read some of the minds of our community who are sitting here today, and they're thinking, God, this guy's out here on his own. There must be some community members who can help, who can, and I want you to, I'm not trying to dismiss anybody, but I'm asking, either in the Latino community or in general, legal aid, are there ways in which there are groups in Cleveland that are helping people like Maria or like some of the congregants that you mentioned?
We have certain organizations outside of the Latino community, that have been helping. There's other congregations that we've partnered with. There's certain, solo firms, like certain immigration firms that we've partnered with to, even if they can't do it pro bono, maybe they'll do it at a discounted rate for families. And so there's certain groups, yes. Unfortunately, there is organizations that have received federal funding, and they still do, and it's a lot more difficult for certain organizations to partner with us, all because the fear that we serve undocumented immigrants. And I'm not saying that they don't want to help us, but they also have funding they have to look forward to, too. And they sometimes have to make tough choices. Their funding and the rest of the jobs at that location, or help us. So it's very difficult in this situation. And I mean, right now with the current administration, we're starting to see that there is possibility that even, like, for example, FEMA disaster funds, they don't want FEMA disaster funds going to undocumented families during natural disasters. They also do not want certain funds to go certain other places as well. But again,
they don't want, there's funds that were designated to help people who are impacted by disasters. If you're part of an undocumented community,
yeah,
you can't avail yourself of those.
Correct. And then the same thing with certain, what they would call the DEI practices. There are certain organizations, because of federal funding, they're having to make choices as well. And so it's made things difficult for some of the work we do, right? We're even, we have a 501c3. We're a registered charity. We have an actual, community center charity. But again, I'm not gonna compromise my value or my moral to help my community because of federal funding. If I have to continue to go out without a salary, like I've done for years now, I will do that, but I do it because I know that eventually it's not just gonna be our Latino community, it's gonna be other communities too. Mm-hmm. And so we have to learn to stick together.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Dreamers? What are they, and right now are they vulnerable, or are they mostly picking up, adults, family members who are already fathers or mothers? Sounds like it's mostly men, but are Dreamers at risk here? And can you just explain what a Dreamer is?
Hey, Jath, come on.
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
Sometimes I'm a little bit more technical. Jath is good at summarizing. I'm more of the,
It's all good.
standard operating procedures guy.
It takes a village. It takes a village. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So remember I was telling you about, sometimes in America you can speed 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. In immigration, we have this concept called prosecutorial discretion. So under President Obama, they created the DACA program, where if you've been in America before a certain date, you've graduated college, you've joined the military, there are certain people that we kind of give forgiveness to, we give grace to. So that would be who the Dreamers are. So these people have registered, they have no criminal record. Many of them have been here since they were children. They've gone to college here, some of them have families here. So Right now, it looks like, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it's been, I would say right now with DACA or Dreamers, it's been back and forth. We've seen the courts where they've said, well, we'll no longer allow the renewal for the DACA program for individuals, and some courts have said, no, we're not gonna stop this. People should be allowed, but it's been back and forth.
They did just reopen it actually 2 days
Oh,
ago,
did you?
except for Texas. So
Oh, there you go, Texas.
everything is bigger in Texas except for DACA, except for DACA,
Yeah.
except for DACA.
But what we have seen is that even though the program, will continue, in all other states except Texas, right? People still with DACA and the Dreamers are actually still being taken. So, I mean, we have guys that have had permanent residence, and because the administration said, well, they lied to us and they stole a piece of bread from a grocery store years ago, they'll use that against them. Just even if it was, a minor misdemeanor, not even a felony.
And I guess one thing I'd like to say is, right now it's a lot of the brown men that are being taken, but there's a lot of Ukrainians and Russians, people that fled war in their country. Right now they haven't been targeting them, but they could. I mean, all the tactics that they're using against one particular, minority, they could repurpose it against any other minority.
Yeah, one thing I will say is we even had an instance where a group of immigrants did see where some immigrants were being taken, but also 2 young African American men were taken into the back of an ICE vehicle in Cleveland, and ICE decided to say, oops, we're sorry, we thought you were Hispanic, and let the guys go. So, and that was actual firsthand testimony from a group of immigrants.
Thank you, Nathaniel. It's been really helpful. I guess I want to speak, as we're winding down a little bit, I want to speak more as a kind of a pastor and thinking about a fellow pastor and maybe even your wife, Rev Sarah. And I know, Sarah, you're with the kids, so I don't know if you're available to come on up. I know she's actually engaged with the kids right now. But I wanted to ask, and again, you're welcome to come on up if you want, but I get it. How the two of you, as co-pastors in this congregation, how are you absorbing all of this? And again, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted to, you included. How do you carry on when you hear these stories, like Maria and like the ones that you've been profiling? Because I've known Rev Luis for a few months now. It's a very new relationship. He's always like this, very, very positive, with a smile, and yet you are carrying some very heavy stories. How does that impact you and your family? I'm sure your children are seeing their parents do this very holy work, which is such an example you're setting for them. But how does this impact you on a kind of a personal level? You want to come up? Or is it too hard?
I think I can project my voice. I work with kindergartners, so I'll hear me. It is tough. It is sad seeing everything that's going around. We've been just trying to maintain our faith and trying to spread as much hope as we can. We know that if we break, there's so many people that can break. So we've been placing a lot of our faith in God. We've been trying to put it into prayer. It's not easy. It's tough because my husband and I
Thank you, Reverend Sarah, Reverend Vizcarando. It was so beautiful and eloquent, and we don't just, you gave us a little taste of what it must feel like to be in the position you're in, and we're really grateful for that. I know you mentioned your faith, and we can't underestimate how strong being faith-based is particularly for the Latino community. I know we're all in a religious institution now, but we all experience God and theology and faith in different ways. I will tell you that Maria has said that what has kept her going is her faith, knowing her husband has been detained. And when she hears that we're praying for him, it's very buoying to her. She really feels like that's what she's experiencing right now. She's seeing us as a faith community that's praying for her husband's release, and that we're using faith in the ways that we should. So I just wanted to give you, it's very inspirational to me as a faith leader to see that kind of connection to one's faith. We are winding down. Thank you, Nathaniel. I wanted to just point out a couple of things. This program, as we've mentioned, is from the Interfaith Group Against Hate. It is an incredible organization that has been launched with about 9 congregations now that are, right? Is there 9, David? And so we have a Muslim congregation, Chagrin Valley Islamic Center, that's part of it. We have a Protestant Baptist congregation. And we're part of that congregation. It's very inspirational, the kind of work that IGA is doing. David Beagle, who is our member, has been instrumental in helping launch it with Donna Weinberger from our congregation. So I just want to thank you, David, for all the incredible work you're doing. And so even though Interfaith Group Against Hate was not founded just to work on immigrant issues, that is one of the major issues that we are working on now. So if you want to get involved in the Interfaith Group Against Hate, please contact David. And he'll kind of let you know what next programs are. And there are some of them, there are some of them already indicated in your handout. Finally, I want to share that we have 2 amazing chairs of our Tikkun Olam committee, Patty London and Laura Creed. Laura is here today. And it has been a true pleasure working with Laura and Patty. Laura serves on the executive committee as well, and it has been wonderful working with the 2 of them. They inspire me too. They like to do the work. They really like to get dirty and do the work. And we have also been helping other immigrant communities as well. You may have heard of an Afghan community, Afghan family that Laura has put in so much blood, sweat, and tears in helping settle them. I'm talking about getting the Medicaid and signed up for a preschool, the kids. It's amazing. At some point, we're going to invite this family to our congregation so we can meet them. But clearly, immigrant rights, reaching out to the stranger, it's so much a part of who we are as a people that this is something that's driving our work. So be in touch with Laura too if you want to get involved with Tikkun Olam in general at the congregation. Clearly, there's a lot going on. Just a note, we have at 4 o'clock is our afternoon service here in Beechwood, and then we will follow up probably around, I would say, 4:45, 5 o'clock for our Ne'ilah service, our final service of the day. Your family's invited. I know you have the kids, so it might not be the right time. But just know if you can't stay with us today, you are welcome to come at any time. Join us for a Shabbat. Bring your community. You are always welcome. Our house is a house for all peoples, and you are right there, a part of our people. You are part of our family, and we're grateful for you and all the work you're doing. Maria, we send our love to you and to Alex, and we continue to pray for him and his release. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you perhaps at the afternoon service.